All right, guys, good morning. So now that we've gone over the different activities that happen at plates, like the divergent boundaries that create new seafloor and subduction ones that create trenches and stuff, let's take a look at some of the features that can be on the floor. Okay, so guys, this is kind of a picture, and I want you to think of it like a cross section, like if you're looking at a sandwich from the side, and you can see all the features on the seafloor. Okay, so we're going to talk about these, and then I also have a Google Doc for you to fill them in, and then I'll tell you which letter goes with which one. Okay, so like you guys have this exact same picture, and here's the definitions we're going to talk about, and then we'll put a letter beside it. Okay? All right, so guys, the first one, the shoreline, all of y'all have been at a shore. So this is basically where the land and the ocean meet. Okay, so in this case, it would be L. So if you would put where land and ocean meet and an L. Okay, the continental shelf is sort of like, just like it sounds, it's the flat part of the edge where the land and the ocean meet, and it's usually covered with shallow water. Now, shallow is relative. We're still talking like 200 meters, which is 600 feet or so, okay? But generally speaking, that's shallow compared to everything else. So the shelf is actually F. See how it looks like the flat part here. Okay, all right, so then next comes the continental slope. So this is the boundary between the oceanic crust and the continental crust. So the reason it's such a steep slope is the continental crust is less dense than the oceanic crust. So think of it's kind of like it's been crushed or compacted. So that's why there's a huge slope there. Okay, so that would be B. So see how there's a big drop, so to speak. All right. Then the next one is the continental rise. That's basically what separates the slope from the ocean floor. And that would be at K here. Okay, so here's your slope. Here's a little bit of a rise, and that's what we call that. All right, this next one is pretty easy. The mid-ocean ridge is basically mountain ranges on the ocean floor. So that's D. That's this section here. And I know they don't look that impressive right now, but they are growing. So these are found at divergent boundaries. That's why I have DIV behind there. So as this thing spreads apart, new mountain things come up. Okay, we talked about that one already. So that is D. All right, the next one, a rift valley. These are deep crevices that are in between the rows of mountains. So if you can think of these mountains as a W, okay, the points where you go down to make your W would be your rift valleys. The places where you go to the top would be your mid-ocean ridge. Okay, so they go between the rows. It's kind of like, if you've ever planted a garden or you have crops, you know how you have a little mound and then there's like a crack in between but your next mound? So that would be like the ridge and the valley. Okay, so the valley is J here. All right. Okay, on to the next page. Same picture up here. The Abyssal Plane, I think that's one of the easiest ones to find because it's exactly like it sounds. That's basically a big flat area, and then the term abyss should make you think deep. Okay, so the Abyssal Plane on this particular picture is I. See how it's relatively flat other than a few features on here, and that's deep. Okay, so Abyssal Plane is I, large flat areas on the bottom of the ocean. The next one, the trench, is very easily recognizable. These are the deepest part of the oceans. They occur at subduction zones, and they have long, narrow cracks, okay? And they are normally like parallel with the shore. So the trench here is at H, okay? And they're normally wider and deeper than this picture shows, just so you know. They happen at subduction zones. All right, now the next two students mix up all the time. Okay, so a seamount is an underwater mountain that used to be a volcano, and then a guyot is basically a seamount, but it's been eroded. So it's going to look like a flat tree trunk. So in this case, the guyot is G, and the seamounts are C. Okay, I always say you can't mount a seamount because they're pointy. All right, so you can sit on G, but you can't sit on C because this one has been eroded. So guys, think about it. The guyot would be a much older thing than the seamount, okay? All right, then the submarine canyons are V-shaped valleys that go through the shelf and slope. So that would be A here. A lot of kids mix up the submarine canyons and the trenches, okay? But if you'll notice, the submarine canyons are normally perpendicular. That means they cut right through the slope and the shelf, okay? Whereas this one is normally parallel with mountain ranges and things. All right, so submarine canyon is A. And then last but not least, we talked about coral reefs in the previous chapter. Coral reefs are basically volcanic islands, but they have to be above the surface. Okay, so that would be E here. Now, sometimes you might see some of these above the surface and it might just be an island. It doesn't mean that it has to have a reef on it. But anytime it breaches the surface, it's either going to be an island or a reef. Okay, so that's the difference between E and G here. This one's way deep underwater. This one is above the water. Okay? All right, so guys, if you have any other questions for that, let me know. We're going to do some activities with that tomorrow and Friday, okay? But you notice here's a cross-section of that again, a profile. Your land, your beach, your shoreline, the shelf, the slope, a little bit of a rise. Then you have your abyssal plain, deep and flat. Here's your mid-ocean ridges. Notice there's magma underneath there. That's a divergent boundary. Okay, your seamount. There's your guyot. Looks like it's been chopped off, like a tree cut down. Islands or reefs breach the water. Here's you a trench, which is at a subduction zone. Okay, and then you have land again. So these profiles are anytime you go from one plate to the next. Okay, so whenever you hear from ocean to ocean or land to land, you're going to have these things in between there. And generally speaking, they're pictured the same. Okay, all right. So we're going to get to this lesson tomorrow and Friday. And tomorrow I'm going to give you that little box to make, and I'll do a little instructional video for you for that. And for the kids that are here, we'll be doing that together. Okay, so that's all I have for today. If you could fill out your notes and show me that you've done that, and then we'll do more activities with this tomorrow. Okay, thank you. Have a great day.